Hi, everyone. I know it's been quite a while since I have posted an update on my channel, and that is because I haven't really known what to say. I I think one of the last posts I did, I was tentatively optimistic about the stricture and the relief that I was getting. And that was for a good reason, I think, because I did continue to have pain. And with my gastroenterologist, um, at some point, I don't even remember when it was because I think it's been like 6 months or so, I started to develop what I thought was proctitis again, or inflammation of the rectum. And he ordered a MRI with contrast. And he did a specific digestive MRI. I can't remember exactly what it was. If when I look back, I'll put it in the description of the type of MRI that I had. But it was a digestive MRI with contrast. And so I had to drink 1,500 milliliters of contrast. I think it was 500 milliliters every 15 minutes. So I had to drink 1,500 milliliters in 45 minutes of this contrast. And then I also had to get IV contrast. And then I did a 2-hour MRI. And I think I got that. I think it was the beginning of March. I think. I can't remember exactly the date. Yeah, I think it was somewhere around the beginning of March that I had that done. And so I did it. I completed that MRI, and I think I had to fast for it. I couldn't eat breakfast, basically. Just couldn't have breakfast. I didn't have to do any kind of bowel prep or anything, thank goodness. And, I was able to do it. And yeah, while I was completing the MRI, I was in the MRI tube for 2 hours. And while I was in it, I think during the last 15 minutes, they give you this shot as well, an intermuscular shot in your deltoid. And that is supposed to slow down your digestion, to look for like blood leakage anywhere in your digestive system. It's kind of how it was explained to me by the radiology technicians. And I started feeling some pain, just generally my typical kind of pain that I always feel. And I started like pushing on the edge of the MRI tube with my arms. And then they were like, "Did you move after it was over?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I moved my arms. I didn't think it would affect anything, below that they were looking at, in my digestive system." And they're like, "Oh, we're going to have to repeat it or you can just be done." And I was like, "No, I want to do it over. The pain passed and hopefully it won't come back. I have no idea what brings it on or why. So let's just try it again because I wanted the images. I want to know what's going on." So they repeated them. Maybe it was only the last 5 minutes. So they repeated them and they got the images, and that was that. And then like on my way home, as I was actually even leaving, I was in the parking lot. I started getting these like stabbing pains like in my digestive system. I just felt really like odd, in my digestive system. And on the way home, couldn't hold my bowel anymore. And thankfully, I was wearing an incontinence pad. I don't remember why. And I couldn't hold my bowel, and I like pulled over at a Dunkin' Donuts. And I think all of that contrast like came out of my body. And I didn't expect that to happen because they told me that shot was gonna like slow down my digestion and like not to eat anything heavy for the next 3 or 4 hours. And so, yeah, I felt really terrible in my digestive system. And then I went home and I just like kept going to the bathroom and kept going to the bathroom, and my belly just felt terrible, and I ended up calling the diagnostic imaging area, and I was like, yeah, I thought my digestive system was going to slow down. I don't really know what's happening. And they're like, oh, yeah, that can happen with people that have, inflammatory bowel disease. We were surprised it didn't happen while you were actually under the camera. And, sometimes people with IBD actually have to get out of the MRI a couple times and go to the bathroom, and that didn't happen. And I'm like, oh, okay. A little warning would have been nice. Or a chuck or something that I could, a diaper, anything you could have sent me home with would have been really helpful. So I just was a little disappointed in the lack of information that they sent me home with because that would have been nice to know. So anyway, if you drink that stuff and get the contrast, you might have a painful experience on the way home. The rest of the day, I was kind of wiped out. I felt terrible. I slept most of the day, and then when I got up finally and I, had some things to eat, I slept the entire night without anything to help me go to sleep. Sometimes I take Benadryl, sometimes I, take something else to help me go to sleep, and I took nothing and I slept the entire night rock solid through the night. And that was really strange. And then but I was still like in a lot of pain, and that was really, really weird. And then I had some pain, and then I can't really remember everything that happened, but I do remember like having a lot of pain and then trying to go back to work and then having like lots of pain again, like in my hips, and like all of the same pain that I used to have um, before. And I don't remember, I had the MRI on a Friday, and then I was going back to work, I think on like a Monday or a Tuesday or something like that. I can't remember exactly which day it was. Um, but I started having like pain in my hips again and like having lots of problems going to the bathroom again, like how I used to after I got this MRI. And it was so bizarre. But I got my results on a Saturday online, and it showed that I had something called a fistula. Like I had a fistula in my small intestine, which is the higher intestine, and then I had a fistula in my lower intestine, which is your large intestine, is where I had the surgery. I had my bowel removed, and which is where I had the dilation that I had last summer 5 times or 6 times, 5 times. And a fistula is just an abnormal connection of a body part that should not exist. So, as I've said before, like your body is a system of tubes connecting. So, like your large intestine is a tube that helps you expel waste out of your body. Well, now it had started to develop a tube or a passageway to something called a presacral space, which does not exist unless there's a fistula. So presacral doesn't exist, as I was told by my gynecologist, unless it's formed. And so presacral is your sacrum is where your tailbone is, and that like it's like this, your tailbone is at the bottom of it, but it's that hard part. I'll see if I can get some images to show you where your sacrum is exactly. But, if you look at someone's back and you see those dimples in their lower back, that's the top part of the sacrum, and then the tailbone is the bottom part, like where the little coccyx is. And so that whole bony structure is your sacrum, and that's the outside that you can see, but mine is on the inside. That's the presacral space that doesn't exist unless it's formed somehow. And mine was by this fistula. So I had this space form because of who knows why. And that's why I hadn't been posting, because it's so difficult to wrap your mind around, like, what do you mean you have this? How does that happen? And that was what I was so frustrated by. How? Well, when you look at fistulas, they often, if you Google it, you'll find out that, and even my doctors would say, my gastroenterologist even was like IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, like Crohn's or mostly Crohn's. You'll see Crohn's a lot for IBD and fistulas. And that's why they were testing me with this MRI, was to see if I had Crohn's disease, because they were saying I had an unusual presentation of ulcerative colitis. They keep saying I have it. And the only reason they say I have it is as every time I got a dilation, they did biopsies of my tissues in my colon. And every single time, except the last time, my tissue pathology was normal, except the last time. The last time it said I had severe to moderate inflammatory bowel disease in my colon. That's the only time, which I'm going to ask my doctors about too, because that's strange. I don't understand why 5 out of 6 times it was normal, and this one time it comes back, you have IBD. I don't understand, and that's why I don't want to post, because I don't quite get it. So they're saying I still have IBD, even though I don't present like it. So they wanted to check me for Crohn's. And the CT came back that you have a fistula in that area, in that presacral space. And both of your piriformis muscles are edematous. And when I read that, I was so emotional and so frustrated, because for the past, specifically over, or at the time, maybe 9 months to a year, I have been telling my doctors, it feels, and then when I went to the ER starting, I don't know, last May or whatever, I've been telling him it feels like something's wrapping around my sacrum and twisting it. And it goes down my hips into my legs, and I'm falling down. Well, that's what your piriformis muscles are. They're down your hips and into your buttocks, and it can run down your legs. And this is what I've been saying. And what they say is, your rectum isn't causing that. That's not your rectum. Dismissed. They dismissed me and dismissed me, telling me that's not happening. And it made me very angry when I saw the results. It crushed me. And I was a bit re-traumatized by the whole experience, because I almost fell down the stairs a couple times. And I've fallen down on the floor in tears from so much pain, from exactly what this MRI showed me that I was in pain from. Exactly the pain that was starting to reemerge from this MRI, because I'm just thinking those liquids went, the contrast went into those areas and just re-aggravated everything, basically back to the beginning of the pain that I was experiencing about almost a year ago. To the extent of that, it was excruciating. And here it was, plain as day, the impression on my MRI, and my doctors were telling me, specifically my gastroenterologist, this isn't caused by your rectum. And I kept saying, I believe it is. It's my body. I know this. This has never happened before. It's related. I know it's related. And they kept dismissing me. And here they are looking for something like Crohn's disease, which they did not find. And I was right. I mean, I'm not saying it was. No, I think it was from my rectum. I think I'm right. Because what I think happened now that I've gotten some space from it. And I went through the re-traumatization of every single moment that I had fallen down and cried and stayed up all night in tears and couldn't get to sleep and was worried if I was going to be able to go to work the next day, wincing in pain and stopped in my tracks and wondering if I'm going to fall down or soiling myself. And they weren't believing me. They weren't listening to me. And all we needed was this MRI. When I was saying this the whole time, it's just very frustrating. But anyway, we got there and we got the answer. And then my doctor fired himself from my case, saying it's too complicated, that I need to go back to my surgeons and create a plan. And he wasn't sure if this was caused by my surgery or the IBD, and that I might need an IBD specialist, considering that I had been diagnosed at one time with ulcerative colitis, and I have not had really any symptoms since that one time. I'm still not convinced that I have it. And he even said you can have it once and it can be in remission for the rest of your life. But here's what I think happened. I had a surgical complication, which was the fistula, the narrowing of the anastomosis. And because it was so narrow and I was struggling so hard to go to the bathroom and so much pain, that stool has to try to go somewhere. And I think that's what created the fistula. It was trying to go somewhere. Your body is going to try to do something. And the reason I know this is because I'm so grateful for my fitness background and my understanding of the body and how it works. Is that, for example, if you work with like physical therapists, if your glutes don't work, your hamstrings and your lower back will take over to get the work done. Your body is smart and your body will try to get the work done at any cost. So if your stool cannot move forward, it will try to create a way to do it. And I think that is what happened. I think that fistula formed because it is trying to get the work done. It has to get that stool out. That is waste. It has to get out. And I know that that's not the greatest way, but it's not the greatest way for your hamstrings and your low back to do all the work either. That will cause damage over time, just like a fistula will. So that's what I think happened. I don't think it's necessarily a surgical complication, the fistula. I just think with so much pressure and straining, it had to go somewhere. And I think that's what happened. But I don't know, and I don't think we'll ever really know that that's true. But I'm just kind of thinking that that makes sense to me. That's probably that's a likely option as to what could have happened. Can I bet on it? I don't think so. But it just seems reasonable, it seems logical. I'm just mad that nobody listened to me, and it probably got worse and worse and worse over 9 months of complaining and being dismissed. And I think if we had done this MRI sooner than later, I wouldn't be probably in such bad shape. I basically just walk and I can't walk that far. So that's where I'm at. Not good news. It's been hard still. And I was not in good spirits when I got this news. It was pretty it was not, I wasn't okay with it. I was really struggling with it for at least a couple weeks. But then I kind of got over it and I was like, you know what? I'm glad we know. I'm glad we finally got the MRI. And I'm glad that my doctors, I'm glad I live where I live. And I am actually thrilled and hopeful because I'm going to be working with a nationally renowned colorectal surgeon. That is a blessing. And I was able to get an appointment with a nationally renowned surgeon, colorectal surgeon, in 2 months. And 2 months seems like a long time, but with that great of a doctor, I think that's incredible. So thank you for your continued support. And if you've been praying, thank you so much because I think it's working. And yeah, to live is to struggle. It's just how it goes. I don't think any of us get out of this life unscathed. And it's really what you do with it up here. And yeah, it does get hard sometimes. Sometimes it seems like it's never going to end. But it's really what you do with it up here and what your circle is doing with you, and walking with you. And that's what I do. I ask God to walk with me through it. And that you cannot go wrong with. And I just continue to do my daily devotionals. I continue to do my daily prayers. And I'm so grateful that I have my husband and my family and my extended family, through my marriage. They're really wonderful people. I'm very, very grateful for all my friends and my family. It really does help tremendously. And I thank you for caring. I thank you for checking up. And I thank you for your support. I'm going to do another video because I have some good news to share. It'll probably be a little shorter because this is a complicated check-in. All right, everyone, take care. Bye.